Hello guys, on this episode of Up to Spec with Seth, we're going to be talking about brightness and darkness, but we're going to be still using the same microphone like I did in the basic video of darkness and brightness, but this time we're going to be using a few more extra terminology and also kind of explaining the um, small bits of science that I can understand and hopefully relay to you to understand in why something sounds the way it does. So, with this big windscreen, what we are officially doing is making a cavity that is very focused, like right down the middle. And because of this, this cavity that's focused right down the middle as we talk into this big foam, all this foam that's around it kind of captures bass frequencies. It's again very similar to a technique that I think I shared in one episode. If I didn't, I'll redo it here. It's when you're cupping the microphone. You can see that done on handheld dynamics like this. You'll see the talent do this on stage, and I don't know why it's done. Just know that you're going to be typically cutting the high frequencies and focusing more on the mids or low frequencies when you cup like this. And the same thing happens for even a broadcast dynamic. When we do something like this, you'll notice that there's a emphasis now on my nasal qualities. And also the bass may actually also increase because of this, or it may dissipate because of the design of the microphone. This is actually a very cool fact specifically for this mic, and that is it's designed to not be touched. And it's actually because the whole chassis, the body and the frame of the microphone is supposed to resonate and do its acoustical magic to help have that beautiful bass that the Shure SM7B is known for. So as soon as you let go of this, you'll notice that everything sounds a lot more even, and that is because the bass isn't actually vibrating through your hand and leaving. The bass is just staying, bouncing around or vibrating the body of the microphone. That's why it sounds bassy. That's why it sounds dark. And as soon as we start to hold it, now everything's leaving. It's leaving through my hand, and now it sounds very brightish or nasally forward. So, okay, but why isn't that happening here? It's because we're not touching the microphone. This foam is doing the same effect as cupping the elements, but at the same time, that little cavity down there, these are very thick foams. So they're concentrating all the energy down the middle and just sending it right to the microphone. And this little channel makes it easy to trap bass frequencies compared to it being open like this. So you can think of darkness and brightness such as this. Brightness is when the bass frequencies don't have anywhere to resonate and live. But then when you have something like this, which is kind of like a resonator chamber or whatever, this kind of allows you to trap the bass frequencies a little bit better, and it will in turn make a microphone sound a little bit more bassy or darker. But also at the same time, these thicker foams deflect higher frequencies. So you'll notice I was applying my microphone technique so that way my plosives and my breaths are not taken too harshly on the microphone. But if I were to breathe, breaths. But I'm going to make the breaths really bright. So breaths. My breaths are very bright. Breaths. My breaths are really bright. My breaths are really bright. My breaths are really bright. I hope you can hear that. The darkening of my take on bright breaths. And you'll notice that it's not only being muffled, which is again a downside of having very beautiful plosive protection through a form of a windscreen that's very thick, but also you'll notice that the air frequencies, everything that's like above 15,000 hertz, is kind of being deflected. It's not being accepted. It's not being passed through the foam. The foam kind of like dissipates it, kind of deflects it. It doesn't accept it, doesn't let it pass through. And because of this, you lose those bright frequencies, but you keep those low frequencies. So that's why wind noise implosives can actually be I guess you can say they correlate really well with high frequencies in terms of EQing. So that's why you'll actually see when people do EQ, they remove certain high frequencies for S's. So whenever I do the word axe, 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 axe is a very good example. Any S word is a very good example of those sharp, high frequencies that our ears don't like. Typically, S's happen around 4,000 hertz or 8,000 hertz, maybe even above. Just depends on where you're placed in your voice. And because of this, we proved it. S, 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 S's are really sharp. 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 These bounce or deflect those high frequencies, but they still let the voice frequencies go through, and they also let the bass frequencies resonate a little bit and come through as well. So depending on how thick a foam is, the thicker the foam, the more deflective it would be of higher frequencies, and the more thinner the foam, the more, I guess you'd say it's less resilient, but at the same time, it's also capable of still producing very interesting bass for a microphone, but it's not going to be as, I wouldn't say bassy, like bass heads, you know, when you're listening to very bassy songs, you're not really adding that much of an effect. It's not like a bass boost. You're just telling the microphone that you should focus more on the bass frequencies because the microphone is capable of doing it. It's not like it was needing a bass boost to begin with. So that's something to keep in mind. We're not bass boosting. We're just saying focus more on the bass. So if we were to take everything into account, like I've mentioned so far, like the little facts that, you know, the acoustics of the microphone, you're not supposed to touch it. I can even show you here. So with the windscreen on and none of the filters engaged, this is actually how the microphone was designed to be used, was with this windscreen, with none of the filters if possible, if you don't need them, and it will have this sound. And now what's going to happen is I'm going to now touch the microphone, and you're going to notice that there might be a change in the sound. It might be very, very tiny. That's very interesting. So this is me at my same distance and also with the same volume. I haven't done anything, no changes to the microphone. And then as soon as I let go of the microphone, you might notice that there might be more bass in it. And again, that's just me talking about how, unlike a handheld dynamic, broadcast dynamic microphones were designed to not be touched. They're supposed to be free, suspended microphones that have a shock mount or a built-in shock mount, such as the Shure SM7B. And when you're holding it, it releases those bass frequencies that it's letting bounce around in there and vibrate and all that stuff to give it the dark sound that this microphone is actually very well known for. But these handheld dynamics, they don't care. Whatever they did in terms of their engineering made it so that even when you're holding them, it'll still get a very decent low end or bass frequency response. So you don't need to worry about how hard you hold the mic or something like that. As long as you're not covering the grill and you're doing this cupping technique, you're not going to be attenuating those frequencies. But it's good to know that you can do this, so that way if you're after a certain kind of sound, you have the ability to do so. So that is a deeper outlook into the darkening and the brightening of sound. Just know, again, brightening the sound isn't really adding high frequencies. We're just letting the bass frequencies dissipate or not be attenuated. But then as soon as we're darkening the microphone, we're just saying, hey, you heard of bass frequencies? I know you have. Let's just give an ear to that a little bit more. Let's let the microphone, let's tell the microphone, just listen in on bass frequencies a little bit more than you have been recently. So it's not like they couldn't do it. It's just that by design, they don't attenuate the bass frequencies as much as other microphones. So thanks for watching this video of this deeper look into brightening and darkening a microphone. I hope that this is helpful for when you're making those little tiny tweaks acoustically to find what better suits your voice.